before, and maybe not from a today, here and now perspective or an immediate perspective, but definitely from the point of view of what the policy direction is going to be over the next 5 years. We get a glimpse of that from the cabinet meeting yesterday and some of the announcements made. So there were 5 major announcements. I picked the top 3 or 4 and the impact that it could have on possible sectors and stocks. The first one, I think, is the deep weather port which has been announced. This is the Vadhavan port which will come up near Dahanu in Maharashtra. This is in the Palghar district. This has been approved at a project cost of 76,200 crore rupees. It will be among the top 10 ports in the world once completed. Now, the point is that what could this impact? You could see a possible stock impact on companies like Dredging Corporation of India, because you actually have to go out and build this facility. Adani Ports, Gujarat, Pipavav Port, JSW Infrastructure could be some of the players over here. Obviously, this is a process which will begin now. Then you will have bids. Essentially, it is JNPA, the Jawaharlal Nehru Port Authority, along with the Maharashtra Maritime Board, which is building this out. So some parts of this huge mega project will then be bid out to private players. So that needs to be kept in mind. But one more point about the Vadhavan port, and I found this interesting, Neeraj, is that this project has come up in the past as a proposal. It has been opposed vehemently in Maharashtra by Uddhav Thackeray and his party. Now, going into the assembly elections at the end of the year, this could be a sticking point, because local fishermen are against this project. It would eventually go through because it's a central government project.
Yeah.
But that's one sort of headwind which also needs to be kept in mind. That's as far as the port is concerned. Next is the MSP, which has been announced. Expected lines. So 14 crops have seen MSP. The Kharif crops have seen MSPs announced. This is standard, but it will result in about 2 lakh crore rupees going to farmers. Remember, we are already talking about the impact of a rural push. We saw it in sugar stocks. We saw it in fertilizer stocks. And you might see more of an agri play there. Some of the possible stock impact which you could see is at KRBL and LT Foods. Remember, for those who are exporting food products, their input costs go up. So that would not necessarily be a positive. It will actually be a negative. Adani, Wilmar, Britannia, Nestle, Marico, Patanjali Food, Tata Consumer, all in that category. On the positive side, apart from fertilizer stocks, maybe Kaveri seeds, Mangalam seeds, because you would see demand increasing for these products. So that's as far as the MSP bit is concerned. And let me come to the other one, the other big one, which is the offshore project. And we'll get my colleague Vikas in a bit to give more details about that. But that's a 7,453 crore approval for offshore wind energy projects off the coast of 2 states, as Gujarat and Tamil Nadu. The idea is to produce 3.72 billion units of renewable energy, and it's a 1 gigawatt project. Ultimately also helps your state electricity boards, and at the end of the day, that's the big plan, isn't it, to increase the proportion of renewable energy. So that's one to watch. Power Grid clearly has a play here. So as a specific stock, I would watch out for Power Grid because they are going to be managing the construction for the undersea cables, the substations, etc. And that was announced in the cabinet meet yesterday by the minister. You can also see Adani Green, Inox Wind, Suzlon Energy. These are some of the players in the space. Siemens, Ports, Adani Ports, Larsen and Toubro. These could be some of the key infra players who could benefit. And the fourth one that I picked, though no clear, I would say, company impact, but interesting to mention, is 2,869 crore rupees to be infused for a new terminal building at the Varanasi airport. Basically, it's an upgradation of the Lal Bahadur Shastri airport there, and will be turned into a green airport. It's run right now by the airport authorities of India. So these were some of the key ones that I thought were interesting. But Vikas also with us now here in the studios. Hi Vikas.
Yeah,
Glad to have you on. Good morning. Let's talk about the wind energy projects, because that's something that you track very, very closely. And clearly, give some context first. This is clearly not the first time that we're trying to build these offshore projects, and what the cabinet has approved is viability gap funding.
Right.
So from the approval to completion, how big is that distance?
See, this viability gap funding is for the first time what the cabinet has approved. This policy came up in 2015. From that time, there was not much headway as far as these projects were concerned offshore, because the cost of power in the offshore is comparatively much higher. So because of this viability gap funding, what will happen is that there will be optimization of the cost as well as the tariff also, which now the discoms will find it much more viable to buy such kind of power. Because especially if we look at, there is another tender which happened in February. So in that tender, what had happened was that this was on open access basis. So that bid is going to close in July 10, on July 10. But that basically there was no viability gap funding. That was between a bilateral agreement that the developer as well as the customers will have between themselves. So there, whatever is the power cost, that will directly be passed on to the customers. But in viability gap funding, what will happen is that the project cost, because say if the two power projects of 1000 megawatt will cost 7,400 crore rupees, so that means 7.4 crore is the cost of per megawatt, which compared to an onshore project is almost 2 crore more.
Right, exactly.
So that's going to make the tariff much higher. So what the VGF will do is to bring down that cost and optimize that cost and also the tariffs.
By how much does it come down by?
It will come down. What the minister yesterday was saying was that the tariff will come down to 5 rupees.
So they bring it down almost to the level at which the onshore project.
Yeah.
But let's just play out for you what the minister was saying. Ashwini Vaishnav, who's the INB minister, was making these announcements at the cabinet meet yesterday. Take a look.
इस पोर्ट से एस्टिमेट किया जा रहा है कि करीब 12 लाख एम्प्लॉयमेंट जनरेट होगा. करीब 12 lakh employment opportunities will be created by this port. This is going to be a mega terminal and this will be an integral part of the IMEC corridor. जो इंडिया मिडिल ईस्ट कॉरिडोर है उसका एक इंटीग्रल पार्ट ये पोर्ट होगा. इसमें 9 कंटेनर टर्मिनल्स रहेंगे जिसमें मेगा वेसल्स आएंगे. मेगा कंटेनर वेसल्स आएंगे. वेसल यानी शिप. मेगा कंटेनर शिप्स इसमें आएंगी. 4 मल्टीपर्पज बर्थ रहेंगी. 4 लिक्विड कार्गो बर्थ रहेगी, यानी पेट्रोलियम इंपोर्ट हो गए, ऑयल इंपोर्ट हो गया, इन सब के लिए. एक रोरो बर्थ रहेगी. रोरो बर्थ यानी जिसपे गाड़ी आए और शिप के अंदर सीधी बैठ जाए, यानी ऑटोमोबाइल एक्सपोर्ट्स के लिए काम आएगी. और एक कोस्ट गार्ड की बर्थ रहेगी. इट्स गोइंग टू बी अ वेरी बिग पोर्ट. इट विल बी कंस्ट्रक्टेड बाय द जॉइंट वेंचर ऑफ जवाहरलाल नेहरू पोर्ट अथॉरिटी एंड महाराष्ट्र मैरीटाइम बोर्ड. इसका कंप्लीट कंस्ट्रक्शन 2 फेजेस में होगा. फेज 1 जो 2029 तक कंप्लीट होने का प्लान है, उसमें 15 मिलियन TU कैपेसिटी क्रिएट की जाएगी. और उसके बाद में फेज 2 में अनदर 8 मिलियन टन्स करके टोटल 23 मिलियन टन्स की 23 मिलियन TU की कैपेसिटी इसमें क्रिएट की जाएगी. ये पोर्ट कंप्लीट होने के बाद में वर्ल्ड के टॉप 10 पोर्ट्स में से एक होगा. दिस पोर्ट
Introducing the new Kushak. Now starts out to East End Bonding.
among the top 10 ports in the entire world. That's the significance of this port.
All right. So we talked a bit about the offshore wind energy projects. Let's get to the big one, which is the Vadhavan port. And Anushi is joining us to share key details on this. Yes, Anushi.
Morning, Tamanna. So as mentioned, this is going to be one of the top 10 major ports globally. Now the cabinet has approved the 76,000 crore of investment over a year, which will include the land acquisition cost as well. if you have to look at it from a stock perspective, dredging corporation comes in mind. Now they do look over the deep drafting and the land reclamation work, so that remains on a watch out. Now currently while the port is being developed by the Vadhavan Port Project Limited, which is an SPV between Jawaharlal Nehru Port Authority holding about 74% stake and the remainder being held by Maharashtra Maritime Board, we have to see once this comes at, so while they are responsible for this on a landlord basis, which essentially means that they are going to be looking after the investment and the construction work going on. But going ahead, once this is completed, for the operational basis, they are going to be sending the tenders out. So that needs to be on a focal point. And once these tenders are out, there are a bunch of companies which will come to bid for the same. Now for this, we have companies like Adani Ports, Gujarat Pipavav Ports and JSW Infrastructure in focus that could potentially benefit. But again, this is a very long-term scenario that we are looking at, as the phase 1 completion is expected by 2029. So going forward, these are the companies that we should be watching out for on how it is going to pan out for the Vadhavan port and how it will benefit into these docks.
Okay, so that's the story with the Vadhavan port. That could be a really big one for some of those port companies, for dredging corporation. On the offshore wind energy side, Power Grid is one to watch out for. But, what is the big picture over here? Anubhuti Sahai, Head South Asia Economics Research, is joining at Standard Chartered Bank, is joining us now for more on this. Anubhuti, very good morning to you. Tamanna here, and great to speak with you on NDTV Profit. Just wanted to get a sense from you on what is the glimpse we're getting into where the policy push is for the Modi government. Now, since their first 2 cabinet meetings, this was the second one, we've seen 2 or 3 key announcements. The first was building of 3 crore homes under the Affordable Housing Scheme. And now you have this mega port project announced, this mega offshore wind energy project announced. Is the focus very clearly this term as well, in your view, on the big capex-led infra projects?
Absolutely, Tamanna. I think that was mentioned very clearly. Even if we look at the BJP manifesto, understandably there is a coalition government, but I think the focus on infra capex is unlikely to be diluted. This is also evident if you look at the cabinet allocation. 1/3 of the ministers are the same as the second term, and they're holding the same portfolio. These allocations send a very, very strong message that focus on infra is unlikely to be diluted. What they are doing in terms of roads. So if we just look at the last 10 years, 10 years back, India was building 14 kilometers, now they're building 28 kilometers. I think this focus remains because while a lot of ground has been covered, there is still lots more which India needs to do. Railway capex continues, and I'm extremely, and I'm sure the industry is extremely encouraged to hear this announcement around port development, because if exports of India have to be, have to have the faster pace and a better reach to the rest of the world, then this will also go a long way. In fact, if you look at the BJP manifesto, there were signals that possibly this can be an area of focus. Port and shipbuilding, etc., can be an area of focus over the next 5 years.